Listen carefully because this is not just another video, and you already feel that, don't you? There was something different about the moment you paused, something unusual about the way your finger didn't scroll this time. Out of all the distractions, all the noise, all the endless content fighting for your attention, you stopped here. You stayed. You listened. And now, something inside you is quietly asking, why this? Why now? The truth is, this is not random. This is not coincidence. And this is definitely not just another message passing through your day. This is a divine interruption. A moment where heaven itself steps into your routine, gently but firmly, and says, stop. Pay attention. This is for you. Because you almost skipped, didn't you? You almost moved on like you always do. You almost treated this like background noise. But something pulled you back. Something nudged your spirit and whispered, stay. And you obeyed, maybe without even realizing the weight of that decision. But heaven noticed. Yes, heaven noticed that you didn't skip. And right now, as this message unfolds, the voice of Archangel Michael speaks not in fear, not in confusion, but in authority and clarity. This one stayed. This one listened. This one responded. Do you understand what that means? It means you passed a test you didn't even know you were in. Because obedience is rarely loud. It doesn't always look like a grand gesture or a dramatic sacrifice. Sometimes, obedience is as simple and as powerful as staying when it would have been easier to leave, listening when it would have been easier to ignore, trusting when it would have been easier to doubt. And you did exactly that. You stayed. You listened. You didn't skip. And now, something is shifting because of it. Have you noticed it yet? That subtle feeling in your chest, that quiet stirring in your spirit, that unexplainable sense that something is about to happen. That is not your imagination. That is not emotion. That is recognition. Your spirit recognizes when heaven is moving. Because what you did, what seemed small to you, echoed loudly in the spiritual realm. While others scrolled past, while others ignored the call, while others chose distraction over discernment, you chose differently. And that difference matters more than you think. There are moments in life when destiny doesn't knock loudly, it whispers. It watches to see who is paying attention. And today, that moment found you. You were led here because you are sensitive to something deeper. Because even in the noise of life, your spirit still hears the subtle voice of the divine. Even when you doubt yourself, even when you question your path, even when you feel disconnected, there is still a part of you that responds when heaven calls. And today, you responded. That is why this message feels personal. That is why it feels like it's speaking directly to you. Because it is. Archangel Michael stands as a witness to your obedience, not the kind that shouts, but the kind that stays. And now, he brings a message wrapped in urgency, wrapped in truth, wrapped in something you cannot afford to ignore. Something big is coming to you, and it is directly connected to the fact that you did not skip. Let that sink in. Not because you were perfect, not because you had everything figured out, but because you paused and you listened. This is how heaven begins to move in your life, not through perfection, but through attention. Not through having all the answers, but through being willing to stay present in the moment you were called into. And right now you are in one of those moments. So don't treat this lightly. Don't brush this off. Because what begins here will not end here. This is only the opening. And what follows next will explain why your obedience has already set something powerful into motion. Type "I didn't skip" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2020 is now activated around you. There are moments in life when everything seems ordinary on the surface, yet something unseen is quietly unfolding beneath it. What you experienced in the last message was not just a passing moment of attention. It was a test. A quiet, almost invisible test that did not come with instructions, did not come with warnings, and did not announce itself as something important. It simply appeared in front of you and waited to see what you would do. And you, without realizing it, made a decision that has now set something in motion. You could have skipped. You have done it before. Everyone has. You could have treated it like every other piece of content that flashes before your eyes for a second and disappears without meaning. You could have said, "I will come back later," knowing deep down that later rarely comes. You could have ignored the small inner pull that told you to stay. What you didn't. You paused. You stayed. You listened. And in that simple act, you proved something far greater than attention. You proved obedience. Obedience is not always dramatic. It is not always loud. It does not always look like sacrifice or struggle. Sometimes obedience is subtle. It shows up in the smallest decisions, in the quietest moments, in the choices that no one else sees. It is choosing to stay when distraction calls your name. It is choosing to listen when your mind is tired. It is choosing to respond to something you do not fully understand, simply because something inside you tells you that it matters. And that is exactly what you did. You responded to a call that was not forced, not obvious, and not explained. You followed a feeling that many would have ignored. You honored a moment that others would have dismissed. And in doing so, you separated yourself. Not in a way that makes you better than anyone else, but in a way that aligns you differently. Because obedience creates alignment, and alignment is what opens doors that effort alone cannot. What you must understand now is that the last message was not just information. It was a doorway. A doorway that only opens for those who are willing to step into it. Many saw it, but few stayed. Many heard it, but few listened. Many felt something, but chose to ignore it. You did not. And because of that, something shifted in your favor. This is how spiritual movement begins. Not with noise, not with force, but with response. Your willingness to respond activated something. It signaled that you are paying attention. It showed that you are not completely consumed by distraction. It revealed that even in a world filled with noise, your spirit can still recognize when something carries weight. There is a reason why this matters so much. Because obedience, even in its smallest form, is a signal. It tells the unseen that you are ready for more. It communicates that you are open, that you are listening, that you are willing to follow even when you do not have all the answers. And that kind of readiness does not go unnoticed. Think about it for a moment. How many times have opportunities passed simply because the timing felt off, or because the moment seemed too small to matter? How many times have you ignored something that later felt important? This time was different. This time, you did not brush it aside. This time, you stayed long enough for something to begin unfolding. And now, you are here, not by accident, but because you passed through that doorway. The test was simple, but its impact is not. It was not about perfection. It was not about knowing everything. It was about willingness. And willingness is one of the rarest qualities in a distracted world. It is easy to scroll. It is easy to ignore. It is easy to move on. But it is not easy to pause, to stay, and to truly engage with something that asks for your attention without forcing it. You did that. And now, something is responding to you because of it. What you proved in that moment was not just obedience. It was awareness. It was the ability to recognize that not everything that appears ordinary is meaningless. Some moments carry weight. Some moments are placed in your path for a reason. Some moments are designed to see whether you are ready to move forward or whether you will remain where you are. You chose to move forward. A choice may have felt small, but it has already begun to create a shift. You may not fully see it yet. You may not fully understand it yet. But something has been activated. Something has taken notice. Something has begun to respond to the fact that you did not treat that moment casually. And this is only the beginning. Because what you proved through that one act of obedience is now opening the way for something that is about to reveal itself in a much bigger way. Type "I chose to stay" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3030 is now surrounding your path. There is a moment that most people never see, never hear, and never become aware of. It is the moment when something shifts beyond what your eyes can perceive, when a quiet decision made in the natural world echoes into a deeper realm. That moment happened for you when you chose not to skip. You thought it was small. You thought it was just you staying a little longer than usual. But what you could not see is that your action created a sound, not a physical sound, but a spiritual signal that traveled far beyond your immediate awareness. In that instant, something took notice, not in a dramatic way that would shake the ground beneath you, but in a precise and intentional way that marked your response. Because every act of obedience, no matter how small it appears, carries a frequency. It communicates readiness. It reveals posture. It shows whether you are aligned or distracted. And when that frequency is recognized, it activates attention in places you cannot see. This is where most people misunderstand how things truly begin to move. They wait for big signs. They look for loud confirmations. They expect something overwhelming to happen before they believe anything has changed. But the truth is, the most powerful shifts often begin in silence. They begin in moments where nothing seems different on the outside, yet everything is being rearranged behind the scenes. When you stayed, your name was not just another passing presence. It became identified. It became marked as someone who responded. And that response triggered a reaction. Not a random reaction, but a deliberate one. Because when attention meets obedience, movement begins. There are countless moments that pass unnoticed every day, but there are also specific moments that carry weight. Moments where your actions are observed more closely, where your choices carry more significance than you realize. This was one of those moments. And because you responded the way you did, something began to align in your favor. You may not have felt it immediately. You may not have noticed anything change right away. That is because what began was not meant to be obvious at first. It was meant to build. It was meant to unfold. It was meant to prepare something that requires timing, not instant visibility. But make no mistake, something has already begun. Think about how many times you have felt overlooked, as if your efforts, your patience, or your quiet persistence went unnoticed. This was different. This time, you were seen. Not by the people around you, not by the systems you interact with every day, but by something that responds to alignment. And that recognition is not passive. It does not simply observe and move on. Initiate. This is why you are feeling what you are feeling right now. It's all awareness that something is shifting, that something is approaching, that something is building. It is not coming from nowhere. It is a response to what has already been set in motion. Your obedience did not just end with that moment. It extended beyond it. It created a connection between where you were and where you are about to be. It opened a line that is now carrying something toward you. And the reason it feels different this time is because it is different. It is not based on chance. It is not based on random timing. It is based on a direct response to what you chose to do. There is a reason why certain moments stand out more than others. It is because they carry intention. They carry direction. They carry the beginning of something that has been waiting for the right response. And when that response finally appears, everything that has been waiting begins to move. You are in that movement now. What makes this even more significant is that you did not force it. You did not try to make something happen. You simply responded when the moment appeared. And that is what made it powerful. Because true alignment is not forced. It is recognized and followed. Now, the process has already begun to unfold. You may not yet see the full picture, but pieces are already being positioned. Circumstances are already adjusting. Timing is already aligning. And all of it is connected to that one decision to stay. You are not where you were before that moment. Something has shifted, even if it is not yet fully visible. And as this continues to unfold, you will begin to notice signs, small at first, then more clear, then undeniable. This is how it starts. Not with noise, but with recognition. Not with force, but with response. Not with chaos, but with alignment. And now that your name has been identified in that moment, what follows next is not accidental. It is intentional. It is precise. And it is already on its way. Type "I am seen" in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 4040 is now activated around your life. As this moment of recognition settles into your spirit, understand that every time light reaches you like this, it is not meant to stop with you. It is meant to flow through you and reach someone else who is still searching in the dark. Just as a single seed multiplies into a harvest, your act of support becomes a channel through which clarity, truth, and direction are released into countless lives. The word says that what you give will return to you, pressed down and overflowing, and this is not a distant promise. It is a living principle already in motion. Right now, you are being invited into something deeper, not as a viewer, but as a vessel that helps carry this message forward. If this message has reached you at the right time, then you already feel the pull to act, to participate, to become part of what is unfolding. Your support through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen is not a transaction. It is a prophetic seed that activates movement beyond what you can see. Step into this moment with intention, because what you release now will echo into places your voice alone cannot reach. Act now and become part of the flow that carries this message to those who are waiting for it. Something has already started to change, and if you are paying close attention, you can feel it. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, and it does not announce itself in a way that demands recognition. Instead, it moves quietly, subtly, almost as if it is testing whether you are aware enough to notice it. This is how real shifts begin. Not with chaos, but with a quiet rearrangement of what once felt familiar. You may have noticed small things recently that do not quite feel the same anymore. Conversations that used to flow easily now feel slightly off. Situations that once made sense now seem unclear or distant. Even your own thoughts, your reactions, your priorities, they are not aligning the way they used to. This is not confusion. This is transition. This is what it feels like when one season begins to close and another starts to open. Most people expect change to arrive with certainty, with clarity, with obvious direction. But that is not how it works. True change often begins with discomfort. It begins with a sense that something is shifting beneath you, even if you cannot yet see where it is leading. That feeling you have been carrying, that sense that something is different, that is not something to ignore. That is the evidence that the shift has already begun. You are no longer standing where you used to be. even if your surroundings appear the same. Something within you has moved. Your awareness has adjusted. Your sensitivity to what matters and what does not has become sharper. Things that once held your attention no longer have the same pull. Things you once tolerated now feel heavier than they should. This is not random. This is alignment correcting itself. When a new season begins, it does not immediately reveal everything it holds. It first separates you from what no longer belongs. That is why certain connections feel different. That is why certain patterns feel harder to maintain. That is why certain thoughts no longer sit comfortably in your mind. You are being repositioned, and repositioning always comes with a period of adjustment. It is important that you do not mistake this phase for loss. Nothing meaningful is being taken from you. What is happening is refinement. What is happening is preparation. What is happening is the clearing of space so that what is coming can arrive without resistance. There is also something else you may have started to notice. Timing is changing. Things that once moved slowly are beginning to pick up pace, while other things that used to feel urgent are suddenly slowing down. This is not inconsistency. This is recalibration. You are being aligned with a different rhythm, one that is not based on what you are used to, but on what is necessary for where you are going. This is why patience feels different now. It is no longer about waiting without understanding. It is about recognizing that something is already in motion, even if it has not fully arrived. You are not waiting for something to start. You are in the middle of it starting. Another sign that the shift has begun is the way your focus is changing. You are beginning to see things more clearly. Not all at once, not perfectly, but enough to recognize that your perspective is evolving. You are questioning things you once accepted without thought. You are noticing patterns you once overlooked. You are becoming aware of details that previously escaped you. This is not overthinking. This is awareness expanding. With this awareness comes a responsibility. You cannot return to what you no longer align with. Once you see something clearly, you cannot pretend it does not exist. Once you feel the difference, you cannot go back to ignoring it. This is why this stage can feel uncomfortable. It asks you to move forward without fully knowing what is ahead, but trusting that where you are going is more aligned than where you have been. You are not being left without direction. You are being guided, but the guidance is not always loud. It comes in small realizations, in subtle nudges, in moments where something simply feels right or wrong without needing explanation. This is how alignment communicates. It does not force. It reveals. Right now, you are in the early stage of something that is still forming. You may not yet see the full outcome, but the signs are already present. The shift is not coming. It has already begun. And the more you stay aware, the more you stay present, the more you stay aligned, the clearer it will become. Do not rush this process. Do not try to force clarity before it is ready to appear. What is unfolding requires timing, and the timing is already being set in place. Your role is not to control it, but to remain aligned with it. Because what is coming next will not feel uncertain. It will feel undeniable. Type "I feel the shift" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 5050 is now lining your path. There are moments when timing becomes more than just a measurement of hours and minutes. It becomes a doorway, a threshold between what was and what is about to be. And today, you are standing at that threshold. What you may not realize yet is that what you did in obedience has already placed you inside a moment that is no longer ordinary. This is not about waiting anymore. This is about receiving what has already begun moving toward you. One of the biggest misunderstandings in life is the belief that reward always arrives after long struggle, that everything meaningful must be delayed, that everything valuable must be earned through prolonged waiting. But there are moments when heaven moves differently. Moments when recognition does not wait for exhaustion. Moments where alignment itself becomes the reason something is released. And this is one of those moments for you. You did not skip. You stayed. And in that simple act, something was set in motion that does not belong to delay. It belongs to immediacy. Because obedience does not always operate on human timelines. It responds to alignment, not limitation. It responds to recognition, not resistance. And once that recognition happens, the movement begins without needing permission from time. You may still be trying to process what is unfolding, still trying to understand why this moment feels different from everything else you have experienced before. That is because this is not repetition. This is activation. Something that was previously dormant has now begun to respond. Something that was paused has begun to move again. And what makes this even more significant is that it is tied directly to your willingness to remain present when you could have easily disengaged. There is a reason why today carries more weight than it appears to. It is not just another day in your routine. It is a point of convergence, a moment where decisions, awareness, and timing intersect. What you chose to do aligned you with that intersection. And when alignment happens at the right moment, reward is no longer something you chase. It becomes something that approaches you. You might notice subtle confirmations beginning to surface. Not dramatic events, but small indicators that something has changed. A sense of clarity where there was once uncertainty. A feeling of peace where there was once hesitation. A quiet confidence that you cannot fully explain but cannot ignore either. These are not coincidences. These are early signs that what was initiated through obedience is now taking form. What you need to understand is that reward does not always arrive in the way expectation imagines it. Sometimes it comes as direction before opportunity. Sometimes it comes as clarity before change. Sometimes it comes as peace before breakthrough. And sometimes it comes as the quiet realization that you are no longer where you used to be internally, even if your external world has not yet fully caught up. This is why today matters. Because what begins internally eventually manifests externally. What shifts in awareness eventually reflects in reality. And what aligns in the unseen will eventually reveal itself in the seen. You are in the early stage of that unfolding. There is also a deeper principle at work here. When obedience is consistent, even in small moments, it creates continuity. It creates a pattern that cannot be ignored by what is moving toward you. It signals readiness. It signals stability. It signals that you are no longer in resistance to what is meant for you. And that signal carries weight. Right now, something is responding to that signal. Not because you demanded it, but because you aligned with it. Not because you forced it, but because you stayed open to it. And that openness is now becoming a channel through which something significant is beginning to flow. It is important that you do not dismiss what feels subtle right now. Many people miss the beginning of their breakthrough because they expect it to arrive fully formed. But what you are experiencing is the beginning stages. The foundation being laid before the structure becomes visible. The preparation before the manifestation. The unseen movement before the visible shift. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not waiting for something that has not started. You are already inside the process of it beginning. And that is why today feels different, even if you cannot fully explain why. As this continues to unfold, you will begin to recognize patterns that confirm what is being said to you now. Moments of clarity will increase. Decisions will feel more guided. Situations will begin to align in ways that reduce confusion and increase direction. These are not random developments. These are responses to alignment. What you chose to do was not small. It was significant. And what is now being released toward you reflects that significance, not as a reward for perfection, but as a response to obedience. And this is only the beginning of what is being set in motion. Type "Today is my turning point" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 6060 is now activated over your timing. There is something you need to understand about moments like this. They are never as simple as they appear on the surface. Whenever alignment begins to form in a person's life, distraction does not arrive randomly. It arrives strategically. It arrives with timing. It arrives with the intention of pulling your awareness away from the very moment that is meant to shift everything for you. And in your case, it tried. It truly did. But you stayed. Think back for a moment, not with emotion, but with awareness. How many times in your life have you been pulled away right before something meaningful was about to unfold? How many times have distractions appeared just as clarity was forming? It is almost as if there is a pattern that shows up right when something important is trying to take shape. That pattern is not accidental. It is designed to interrupt focus, because focus is what allows alignment to fully activate. But this time, something was different. This time, you did not fully move away. You did not fully disconnect. Even if you were uncertain, even if you were distracted at first, something inside you remained anchored to this moment. And that anchoring is what made all the difference. Distraction is never loud in the beginning. It does not always arrive with chaos. Sometimes it arrives with subtlety. A thought that tells you to come back later. A feeling that says it is not important right now. A mental shift that makes something meaningful feel ordinary. That is how it works. Not by force, but by suggestion. And if that suggestion is accepted, the moment is lost without you even realizing it. But you did not fully accept it this time. You stayed. And that changed the outcome of this moment more than you currently understand. Because what was trying to happen in the background was not just about your attention. It was about your alignment. Distraction does not only steal focus, it interrupts flow. It breaks continuity. It creates distance between what is being formed and the person it is being formed for. That is why moments like this carry more weight than they appear to on the surface. They are not just about listening. They are about remaining connected long enough for something to take root. There is a deeper reason why staying matters so much in moments like these. It is because consistency of attention creates a bridge. And once that bridge is formed, what is meant for you begins to travel across it. But if attention breaks too early, the connection weakens. That is what distraction tries to achieve. Not destruction, but interruption. And yet, here you are. Still present. Still connected. Still within the moment that so many would have already left behind. You may not fully realize it yet, but this is a form of strength. Not the kind that is loud or visible, but the kind that is built in silence. The ability to remain present when it would be easier to disengage is not something small. It is a reflection of readiness. Because what is coming into your life requires not just desire, but stability of attention. It requires someone who can remain aligned even when things do not immediately make sense. There is something important happening within you right now. A subtle shift in how you process timing, meaning, and awareness. You are beginning to recognize that not everything deserves your immediate exit. Not everything that feels unclear is unimportant. Some things require presence before understanding. And you chose presence. A choice did not go unnoticed in the flow of what is unfolding around you. Because while distraction attempted to pull you away, something else was responding to your ability to stay. And that response is now shaping what begins to approach your life. You might still feel as though nothing visible has changed yet. But that is because what is happening is not designed to be instantly visible. It is designed to build. It is designed to stabilize. It is designed to form something that can sustain what is about to arrive. And your presence in this moment is part of that formation. Many people underestimate the power of staying. They think transformation always comes from action, from doing, from moving. But sometimes transformation comes from remaining, from not leaving too soon, from not breaking connection before something has fully formed. That is where your power is in this moment. You stayed, and because you stayed, something is now able to continue moving toward you without interruption. There is a quiet but powerful confirmation forming around you now, not in dramatic ways, but in subtle alignments that will become clearer over time. Things will begin to feel less scattered. Your awareness will feel more focused. Your sense of direction will begin to stabilize. These are early signs that the interruption was not successful. You overcame distraction not by struggle, but by presence. And that is why this moment matters more than you realize. Because what is now being set in motion will only make sense to those who remained long enough to receive it. Type "I stayed focused" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 7070 is now securing your alignment. Now that you have stayed, now that you have remained present, now that you have moved through distraction without surrendering your attention, there is something you must be prepared to understand. What is coming toward you is not random, not scattered, and not ordinary in nature. It carries structure. It carries direction. It carries intentionality that goes far beyond coincidence or chance. Because what is being released toward your life now is a response to everything that has already been established through your obedience. There are moments when life feels like it is simply passing by without clear indicators of change. But then there are moments like this, where everything begins to feel as though it is quietly building toward something greater. You may not yet see the full picture, but the weight of this moment is not meant to be seen all at once. It is meant to be revealed gradually, in layers, so that you can recognize its significance when it fully arrives. What is coming is not small. It is not fragmented. It is not partial. It carries a sense of completeness that you have not experienced in a while. Not because your life hath been empty, but because there have been areas where things felt unfinished, unresolved, or paused. And now, something is beginning to move into those very spaces, not to confuse them further, but to bring alignment where there was once uncertainty. You may begin to notice subtle shifts in your environment, in your thoughts, in your awareness of timing. Situations that once felt delayed will begin to feel like they were being prepared. Conversations that once felt unclear will begin to reveal meaning. Paths that once felt closed will begin to feel accessible in ways you did not anticipate. This is how the arrival of something significant often begins. It does not announce itself loudly. It unfolds. What is being released toward you carries the essence of recognition. It responds to the fact that you did not ignore the moment, that you did not dismiss what was placed in front of you, that you did not treat something meaningful as if it were insignificant. And because of that, what is now coming toward you is aligned with the same frequency of attention and awareness that you demonstrated. There is also something important happening beneath the surface of your experience. You are being prepared to receive without resistance. Because sometimes, the challenge is not in receiving something but in being able to recognize it when it arrives. Many people miss what is meant for them simply because it does not appear in the form they expected. But what is coming toward you is designed in a way that will become clear when the timing is right. You may have spent a long time in cycles of waiting, wondering, or questioning when things would finally begin to shift. And now, you are entering a phase where waiting begins to transform into recognition. Not because everything has suddenly changed at once, but because your awareness is now aligning with what has already been forming in the background. There is a structure being built around your path right now, even if you cannot physically see it yet. It is the kind of structure that supports movement, clarity, and direction. And as it continues to form, you will begin to feel less uncertainty around certain areas of your life. Not because everything becomes instantly resolved, but because clarity begins to replace confusion in stages. What is coming is not separate from what you have already experienced in this process. It is the continuation of it. It is the unfolding of what was activated earlier through your decision to stay, to listen, to remain present, and to move through distraction without disconnecting. Everything is connected. Nothing is isolated. There is also a deeper realization beginning to surface within you, that your choices, even the small ones, carry more influence than you may have previously believed. Because in moments like these, it is not the size of the action that matters most, but the alignment behind it. And alignment creates momentum that does not rely on visible effort to continue moving forward. You are now standing in the early stages of that momentum becoming visible in your life. Not fully revealed yet, but undeniably in motion. And as this continues, you will begin to recognize patterns that confirm what has been unfolding within you. Patterns of timing, patterns of clarity, patterns of movement where there was once stillness. What is coming toward you carries significance not because it is dramatic, but because it is aligned. And alignment is what determines the strength and stability of what arrives in your life. You are not stepping into randomness. You are stepping into alignment that has been quietly forming since the moment you chose to remain. And now, that alignment is beginning to reveal itself. Type "I am ready to receive" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 8080 is now activating your next level. There is something deeper you need to understand now, something that goes beyond what you have felt so far in this message. What you are experiencing is not simply a sequence of encouraging words or spiritual confirmation. What is unfolding is alignment being activated in real time, not as a concept, not as an idea, but as a living process that responds to your awareness, your presence, and your obedience. And the moment you chose to stay, something shifted into alignment that was previously waiting for your response. Alignment is not something that happens randomly. It is not something that appears without cause. It is the result of recognition. It is what happens when a moment meets the right response and something within that response signals readiness. And in your case, your willingness to remain present when distraction tried to pull you away became that signal. It became the point of activation that allowed alignment to begin forming around your path. You may not have understood the significance of your decision in the moment it happened, but alignment does not require full understanding to begin. It only requires participation. And you participated simply by staying, by listening, by not breaking connection when it would have been easier to disengage. That simple act became a marker in the flow of what is now unfolding in your life. There is a reason why alignment matters so deeply in this moment. Because what is coming toward you requires structure. It requires readiness. It requires a level of internal positioning that allows you to receive without resistance. Without alignment, even the most meaningful opportunities can pass unnoticed or feel out of place. But when alignment is active, everything begins to feel like it is arriving at the right time, even if you cannot fully explain why. What is happening now is that your internal state and your external direction are beginning to synchronize. That means the confusion you may have felt previously is starting to give way to clarity. Not all at once, but gradually, in a way that allows you to adjust without being overwhelmed. You are being eased into a state of awareness where what is meant for you no longer feels distant or disconnected, but closer, more tangible, more present. This is not something you forced. This is something that responded to you. Because alignment is not about effort alone. It is about resonance. It is about the relationship between your awareness and the moment you are in. And when that resonance is strong enough, things begin to shift without struggle. Doors begin to feel less closed. Paths begin to feel less uncertain. And timing begins to feel more precise. You might begin to notice that certain thoughts are no longer as chaotic as they once were. That your inner dialogue is becoming more centered. That your sense of direction, even if not fully defined, feels less scattered than before. These are not coincidences. These are signs that alignment is stabilizing within you, that what was once fragmented is beginning to come into coherence. There is also a deeper layer to this activation, because alignment does not only affect how you see things, it affects what begins to move toward you. It influences the timing of events, the clarity of decisions, and the way opportunities begin to present themselves. You are not just changing internally. You are entering a phase where your internal alignment begins to reflect externally. This is why your obedience matters so deeply in this context. Because obedience is what creates openness. It is what allows alignment to form without resistance. And you did not resist. You stayed open. You stayed present. You stayed connected. And in doing so, you allowed something to begin forming around you that could not have formed otherwise. What is now unfolding is not random movement. It is structured alignment responding to your presence. And as this continues, you will begin to recognize that certain moments in your life begin to feel more intentional, more directed, more precise. Not because everything is suddenly perfect, but because everything is beginning to align with something greater than what you previously understood. You are not being led into uncertainty. You are being led into structured flow, a flow that responds to your awareness and adjusts your path in real time. And the more you remain in alignment, the more clearly this flow will become visible to you. This is the doorway you have stepped into. Not through force, not through pressure, but through response. And now, that doorway is fully active. Type "I am in alignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9090 is now stabilizing your path. In this moment of alignment, understand that what is unfolding in your life is not just personal transformation, but a divine flow that is meant to reach far beyond you. Every time this message touches a heart, it becomes a ripple in the spiritual atmosphere, carrying light into places that have been waiting for direction. You are not just witnessing alignment, you are participating in it, and your response helps extend this message to those still searching for clarity in their own confusion. The word reminds us that when we sow into what is aligned with purpose, we do not just give, we activate a cycle of divine return that reaches every area of our lives. Right now, your support is not simply a contribution. It is a continuation of the obedience you already demonstrated by staying connected to this message. As you give through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on screen, you are helping this voice reach others who are on the edge of their breakthrough but still in the fog. This is not about transaction. It is about transmission. Of truth, of clarity, of awakening. Step into this flow with intention, because what you release in alignment now will return to you in multiplied direction and divine order. What you are stepping into now carries both promise and responsibility, because not every moment of elevation comes without awareness. There is something you must understand as this alignment continues to unfold in your life. While what is coming toward you is rooted in blessing, clarity, and divine timing, it also requires discernment. Because not everything that follows alignment is meant to be received blindly. Some things must be observed carefully, felt deeply, and understood spiritually before they are fully embraced. This is where many people lose their footing. They experience movement and assume everything connected to that movement is automatically without challenge. But real spiritual alignment always carries awareness within it. It sharpens your perception. It makes you more attentive. It strengthens your ability to distinguish between what is aligned and what only appears aligned. And that discernment is what you are being called into now. You are not being warned in fear. You are being awakened in clarity. Because when your life begins to shift, not everything that approaches you will carry the same frequency as what is meant for you. Some things will test your awareness. Some situations will test your patience. Some voices will test your focus. And your strength in this season will not just be measured by what you receive, but by what you are able to recognize correctly. There is a subtle difference between movement and misdirection. Movement aligns with peace even when it challenges you. Misdirection creates confusion even when it appears appealing. And part of your spiritual growth in this moment is learning to sense that difference without needing external confirmation. You are being trained internally to recognize alignment without hesitation. This is why staying spiritually alert is not optional in this season. It is necessary. Because what is being released toward you will not always announce itself in obvious ways. It will require your awareness to interpret it correctly. It will require your discernment to receive it properly. And it will require your stability to hold it without losing clarity. You may begin to notice that your intuition feels stronger than before. Not in an overwhelming way, but in a steady, consistent way. A sense that you understand things without needing them fully explained. A sense that you can feel when something is right or not right without external validation. This is part of the activation that comes with alignment. It is not emotional instability. It is spiritual sensitivity being refined. At the same time, you must remain grounded. Because heightened awareness without grounding can lead to confusion. That is why this season requires balance. You are being made more aware, but also more steady. More perceptive, but also more anchored. More open, but also more discerning. These qualities are developing together within you, shaping how you move forward. It is important that you do not rush this process. Do not try to interpret everything immediately. Do not assign meaning too quickly to every situation that appears. Some things will become clear only with time. And part of your spiritual maturity in this season is learning to allow clarity to unfold instead of forcing it to appear instantly. There is also a deeper reason why this alertness matters. Because what is being aligned in your life is not isolated. It interacts with timing, with relationships, with opportunities, and with direction. And your awareness determines how you engage with each of these areas. A lack of awareness can cause delay, but aligned awareness brings clarity into every interaction. You are being prepared for a level of discernment that will serve you far beyond this moment. Because once your awareness is sharpened, it does not only apply to this season. It becomes part of how you move forward in life. You begin to recognize patterns more quickly. You begin to sense direction more clearly. You begin to understand timing more deeply. This is the hidden strength within this stage. Not just receiving, but recognizing correctly what is being received. Not just experiencing change, but understanding its purpose. Not just moving forward, but moving forward with awareness. So as this blessing continues to unfold, remain alert. Stay grounded. Stay centered. Because within the blessing is also a responsibility to see clearly, to understand deeply, and to walk wisely. And those who remain spiritually aware in this season will not only receive what is coming, they will understand why it came. Type "I walk in discernment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1001 is now activating spiritual clarity around you. There is something you must understand at this stage of what is unfolding in your life. What is happening is not random attention, not temporary emotional intensity, and not a passing feeling of significance. Something deeper has occurred, something that goes beyond your immediate awareness. Your name, your path, your presence in this moment has been marked by alignment, and that marking carries consequences in the unseen flow of your life. When we say marked, it is not about fear or limitation. It is about recognition. It is about the identification of your response within a moment that carried spiritual weight. You did not overlook it. You did not dismiss it. You did not turn away. And because of that, your position within this unfolding process has changed. You are no longer simply observing what is happening. You are now part of what is happening. This marking is not visible to the natural eye, but it is evident in the way your awareness has begun to shift. You may notice that certain things no longer affect you the way they once did. Situations that previously pulled your attention into confusion now feel less overpowering. There is a sense of distance forming between you and what once created instability within you. That distance is not emotional detachment. It is spiritual realignment. What surrounds you now is not random favor. It is structured recognition. It is the result of alignment responding to your consistency and presence. You remained in the moment when many would have left. You stayed when distraction attempted to redirect you. And that simple but powerful decision has created a field of alignment around you that is now influencing how things approach your life. You may not fully understand how this works yet, but alignment creates boundaries. It creates a kind of spiritual structure that begins to filter what is no longer aligned with your direction. That is why certain things may feel different now. That is why certain patterns are beginning to shift. That is why certain experiences no longer carry the same weight they once did. There is also something more subtle happening. You are beginning to carry yourself differently without consciously trying to. Your thoughts are becoming more centered. Your decisions are becoming more intentional. Your reactions are becoming more measured. This is not something you forced. It is something that is forming naturally as a result of the internal shift that has taken place within you. When a person enters alignment, they begin to reflect it without effort. It shows in how they think, how they respond, how they perceive situations around them. It is not a performance. It is a transformation. And what you are experiencing now is exactly that. A transformation that is beginning internally before it becomes visible externally. The marking that has taken place is not something that isolates you. It positions you. It places you within a flow of timing that is beginning to adjust itself around your awareness. Things that were once misaligned with you will begin to separate naturally. Things that are aligned with your path will begin to move closer without force. This is how alignment organizes itself. Not through struggle, but through clarity. You are entering a stage where your life begins to feel less chaotic internally, even if external circumstances are still shifting. That internal stability is not accidental. It is part of the preparation for what is approaching. Because what is coming requires a level of awareness that cannot be built in confusion. It requires clarity. It requires steadiness. It requires a sense of grounded recognition of what is real and what is not. And that is exactly what is now forming within you. This marking also means that your sensitivity to timing is increasing. You may begin to feel when something is about to shift before it visibly does. You may begin to sense when a situation is changing direction before it fully unfolds. This is not guesswork. It is alignment refining your perception. It is your awareness becoming synchronized with what is being prepared around you. The favor surrounding you is not separate from your obedience. It is the continuation of it. It is what begins to form when presence, awareness, and response align in a consistent way. And now, that alignment is creating pathways that were previously not accessible. What was once unclear is beginning to organize itself. What was once distant is beginning to approach. What was once uncertain is beginning to take a shape. And all of it is responding to the moment you chose to stay. You are not outside of this process. You are inside it. You are part of its unfolding structure. And as it continues, you will begin to see how deeply connected your awareness has become to what is now surrounding you. This is not accidental. This is not temporary. This is alignment taking form around your life. And your name is now within that formation. Type "I am marked for favor" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1110 is now sealing divine recognition over your life. What you are stepping into now is not something that continues passively without your awareness. There is a window of time unfolding around your life, and within that window, your awareness becomes extremely important. The next phase of what has been set in motion is not only about what comes toward you, but also about how you position yourself to recognize it when it begins to appear. Because alignment does not remove your awareness, it sharpens it. Over the next period of time, you may begin to notice subtle changes in how you interpret your surroundings. Things may not feel the same as they did before you entered this message. Your thoughts may feel more structured, your intuition more active, your inner sense of direction more noticeable. This is not confusion. This is heightened awareness, beginning to stabilize within you. The reason this matters now is because transitions do not happen in isolation. They unfold in layers. And the next 24 hours represent a continuation of what has already begun within you. This is a period where your internal clarity becomes more important than external validation. What you feel, what you sense, what you recognize internally will carry more weight than what others may say or suggest around you. You are being encouraged in this moment to remain steady. Not reactive, not impulsive, not distracted by external noise that does not align with what you are beginning to sense internally. Because when alignment is active, one of the first things it strengthens is your ability to distinguish between noise and direction. And that distinction will be important in the time ahead. There may be moments where you feel like stepping back into old patterns of thought, old responses, old emotional reactions. That is natural when transition is happening. But you are being guided into awareness, not regression. You are not being called backward. You are being positioned forward. And the next 24 hours will reflect that positioning in subtle ways before it becomes fully visible. Pay attention to how quickly your clarity returns when confusion tries to approach. Pay attention to how your thoughts reorganize themselves when uncertainty begins to rise. Pay attention to how certain situations no longer affect you in the same way they once did. These are signs that your internal alignment is stabilizing. And stability is what prepares you for recognition of what is coming. This is also a time where silence becomes important. Not silence in the sense of isolation, but silence in the sense of observation. Observing what feels aligned, observing what feels disconnected, observing what brings peace and what creates disturbance. Because alignment becomes clearer when you are not reacting to everything immediately, but allowing yourself to perceive before responding. In the next phase, timing will feel more significant. Certain things may feel like they are moving closer while others naturally distance themselves. This is not random. This is structure forming around your awareness, and your ability to remain steady in this phase will influence how clearly you perceive what is unfolding. There is also something deeper happening within your sense of expectation. You may find that you are no longer expecting things in the same way you used to. There is a quiet shift forming where expectation is becoming less about uncertainty and more about recognition. Not hoping blindly, but sensing direction. That shift is part of alignment taking root. You are being prepared for a moment of realization that will not feel confusing, but clarifying. A moment where what has been forming internally begins to reflect externally in a way that confirms what you have been sensing. But to reach that point clearly, your awareness in the present moment matters. Do not rush this process. Do not try to force interpretation of everything you feel. Let it unfold. Let it stabilize. Let your awareness adjust naturally without pressure. Because what is being formed does not require force from you. It requires presence. The next 24 hours are not about doing more. They are about noticing more. They are about recognizing the subtle shifts that indicate something is in motion. And as you remain aware, you will begin to see that nothing is random anymore. Everything is part of a structure that is becoming clearer with time. You are not stepping into confusion. You are stepping into recognition. And that recognition begins with your ability to stay aware in the present moment. Type "I am aware" and ready in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now stabilizing your next phase. Now you arrive at the final stage of what has been unfolding throughout this entire message, and it is important that you understand something very clearly as you reach this point. What has been building, what has been shifting, what has been aligning within your awareness has not been without purpose. It has been moving toward a moment of recognition. A moment where what was once unseen begins to take form in a way that your life can no longer ignore. This is not the beginning of something new. This is the revealing of what has already begun. Because manifestation is not always the arrival of something unfamiliar. Sometimes it is the uncovering of what has been quietly forming beneath the surface of your awareness all along. And now, that formation is approaching visibility in your life. You may begin to notice that situations which once felt uncertain begin to settle into clarity. Not all at once, but in a way that feels steady and undeniable. What was confusing will begin to organize itself. What felt delayed will begin to make sense. What felt disconnected will begin to show its purpose. This is how recognition arrives. Not as a shock, but as understanding. There is a moment that is approaching where you will look back and realize that what you are experiencing now was not random at all. You will see how each step, each moment, each choice, each pause, and each act of staying present was part of a larger unfolding. At that moment, clarity will replace confusion, and understanding will replace uncertainty. What is being revealed is not separate from what you have already walked through. It is the continuation of it. And as it becomes clearer, you will begin to understand why certain things had to unfold the way they did, why certain moments required your attention, why certain decisions mattered more than they appeared to at the time. There is also something deeper happening within you, a sense of internal confirmation that you may not be able to fully explain yet, but you can feel. A quiet certainty forming beneath your thoughts. A stability that was not there before. That is how recognition begins to settle into a person's awareness before it becomes visible in their external reality. You are entering a stage where reflection and reality begin to align. Where what you sensed internally begins to mirror what is unfolding externally. And when that happens, doubt begins to fade naturally. Not because everything becomes perfect, but because everything begins to make sense. This is the moment where your awareness and your experience begin to meet. where understanding catches up with what has already been happening. And in that meeting point, clarity is born. Not forced and not rushed, but revealed. You are not being asked to force anything into existence. You are being asked to recognize what is already forming. Because recognition is the final step before manifestation becomes fully visible. And that recognition is now beginning within you. As this continues to unfold, you will begin to see why the instruction was never to rush, never to force, never to overanalyze. Because what is real does not require pressure. It requires awareness. And you have now entered a state where awareness is becoming your strongest guide. Soon, what felt like separate moments will begin to connect. What felt like isolated experiences will begin to form a pattern. And that pattern will reveal a direction that was present all along, even when it was not yet clear to you. This is the manifestation moment approaching clarity. Not because something is being added, but because something is being revealed. And when you see it, you will understand that nothing was ever random. Everything was aligned. Everything was intentional. Everything was leading here. Type ISEIT now in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1313 is now completing your manifestation cycle. As this message reaches its completion, understand that what you have experienced here is not just information, but a flow of awakening meant to reach far beyond this moment. Every time truth is received, it is meant to multiply, not remain still, and your engagement becomes part of that multiplication. You are not just witnessing clarity, you are participating in its spread, helping it reach others who are still searching for direction in their own silence. The word reminds us that those who sow into light will also walk in light, and this principle is active even now as you stand at the end of this message. Your support through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on screen is not simply giving. It is extending this message into places you cannot see but are deeply in need of it. You are helping ensure that this voice reaches those who are on the edge of their own breakthrough but have not yet found clarity. Step into this final moment with intention, knowing that what you release in alignment will continue to echo far beyond the screen, shaping lives, restoring hope, and opening hearts that are ready to receive.